Hey everyone, Ace of Clay here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another sculpting video. If you are new here, I'm a sculptor and every week I make a new sculpture. So in today's video, I will be making a miniature Halloween scene graveyard type situation. Now this video actually contains a couple different tutorials. I've wanted to get to all of these, like redo them. I know I have older versions on my channel that I don't really like anymore, so I wanted to redo them, and I figured what better way to do that than to just make all of them in one video and turn them into this cute little spooky Halloween diorama. So you're gonna get a miniature pumpkin tutorial, a tombstone tutorial, a skull tutorial, a creepy fence tutorial, and then the base for the entire sculpture. So I really hope you enjoy this video. It is for anyone that wants to create something cool for Halloween. You don't have to be at any skill level. You just need some clay and of course some paints. And you know which ones I recommend. All right, and then before we get started, I have a couple Twitter shout outs that I would like to do. Let's head on over to Twitter. And if you're not following me on Twitter yet, be sure you do so. I'm at Ace of Clay and I'd love to see you there. All right, whoa, gonna pick 4 random people. So we got shout out to Pondering Whimsy, Nurse Carnage, Joey Cola, and Froggy. So like I said, follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you haven't already. Now, without further ado, let's get into this tiny little Halloween diorama thing. Alright, the first step is to create the base for the sculpture that is going to house all of the different elements that I mentioned in the intro. I'm going to create this sort of dirt mound shape out of some aluminum foil. And as always, all of the materials and tools that I use in this video are listed in the description box below, along with my affiliate links if you want to purchase anything. And once I've arrived at the shape that I like, which is sort of this asymmetrical kidney bean, I'm going to cover the entire thing in some Super Sculpey Original. That's the clay we're going to use for this project. To get this nice even sheet, I ran the clay through my pasta maker on the thickest setting. And because this is going to be the ground, I like the unevenness that I get by pushing the clay into the aluminum foil. If you want it smoother, you're just going to have to add a little bit more clay. Now to texture the surface to look like dirt and grass, you can poke a piece of aluminum foil into it like this to create that nice uneven texture, or you can ball it up into a somewhat perfect sphere and roll it onto the surface. This is a super easy and super effective way to create that texture. Now once our base is textured, we're going to set it aside and start working on some of the elements that I want to pre-bake before I add them to the base. We're going to start with our creepy picket fence. To create the picket fence, I'm just folding this piece of clay in half. I got this by rolling it through my pasta maker on the thickest setting again. I'm just going to cut out the different boards for the fence with my blade tool. Now that all my boards are cut out, it's time to texture them to look like wood. To do this, I'm just dragging my pin tool on the surface to create that nice grain. And then I can't forget to pierce 2 holes in the side. This is where the fence boards will be connected using some floral wire later on. Make sure you're poking your pin tool all the way through the board. Now we're going to repeat this process on all the remaining boards. Once they're done, we're going to transfer them to this scrap piece of glass I got from an old picture frame, stick them on and get them into their final shape and position, and then set this aside. This is what I will be baking all of my pieces on today. Alright, now on to some tombstones. I just folded this piece of clay in half again, and we're going to cut out our tombstone shape with my blade tool. I'm going to create a nice little asymmetrical shape here. And now I'm going to create a sort of embossed border. I'm going to cut this out of a piece of clay that I ran through my pasta maker on the 5 setting, I believe. And we're just going to cut out these little strips and then put it around the edges of our tombstone. And once the border is placed, I'm going to go ahead and blend in the seams with my spoon tool and of course the sides, like so. Then to add a subtle stone texture, I'm going to use this toothbrush and gently tap it onto the surface. Now to create some writing, I'm going to use this very tiny ball stylus, which is more of a pen tool, and I'm just going to tap in the letters RIP along with some little wisp designs. Now using the other end of my Explorer tool, I'm going to create some cracks. And there we go. Our first tombstone is done. But before we call this thing completely done, we've got to poke in a little toothpick. This will help us insert it into the base after it's baked. Now on to our second and final tombstone for this project. I want to create a bigger and fancier one, following the same steps in the last one, except this time I want to trace out the shape before I cut it out. Now to create a different looking border on this one, I'm just going to use a very thin snake of clay and just follow along the edges. Now for an added detail on this one, I want to add a skull motif. Now for a big RIP, we're going to create this the same way we did the other one. Now to finish off the motif, let's add a couple swirls. And once we're done, we're going to add a little bit of a texture with our toothbrush, being very careful not to destroy all the details. And then of course we can't forget some cracks. And let's finish this guy off with another toothpick and then add it to our piece of glass with our fence. We're going to bake all of these little elements together later on. Now on to the pumpkins. This is a new and improved pumpkin tutorial from my previous video, and we're going to go ahead and shape out our pumpkin from just a solid piece of clay. I used to put aluminum foil inside of these. I really don't think it's necessary for the size of pumpkins that I'm making for this project, but if you want to make them bigger, obviously bulk them out with some foil or Sculpting Ultralight. Once I have my shape figured out, I'm going to take my wedge silicone shaper tool and create some lines in the pumpkin. Now using a tiny ball stylus, let's create the face. This is the fun part. Now let's finish off this guy with a tiny little stem. I'm going to repeat this process to create a couple more pumpkins and a couple very tiny ones too for some variation. Now onto the skulls. I'm going to make these skulls just like the ones that I made for my cave troll that I did a couple months ago. I'm going to start with a ball of clay, add the top row of teeth, and then blend that in with my spoon tool. Push out the eyes with a ball stylus. Now for the nose, with that tiny ball stylus, we're going to create this sort of upward arrow shape. And then using that same tool, we're going to press out the individual teeth. And there you go, some stylized skulls. I made 3 of them for this project. And once we're done with everything, we're going to add all of it to our piece of glass and get ready to bake it. And once it's baked and completely cooled down, it's time to add all of it to our base. But first, we have to string together all of our fence boards. I'm using some floral wire, and I'm just poking it through all of the holes like a string of beads. And once our fence is figured out, we're going to poke it into the base, and then after it's completely positioned, we are going to pull it out, add a little bit of bacon bond for some added reinforcement, and then put it back in. And now let's figure out where we want our tombstones. Starting with the big one, I end up moving the big one. It's a little too close to the front. We're just going to cover that spot and then add it a little further back with some bacon bond. And as you can see, I added some bacon bond to the other one as well. Not bad. Brush off the excess. Now let's place our pumpkins. Now that our pumpkins are on, we're going to go ahead and add a couple extra details like these little tiny blades of grass at the base of each tombstone. Like that. And then let's add some rocks. I just sort of shape them out in my fingertips and stick them on. Now right in the middle of everything, let's add a nice little pile of skulls. Of course, adding them with some bacon bond. And then I really thought this needed another pumpkin, so I went ahead and made another one and stuck it on. And once it's done, we're gonna add it to our piece of glass, add some finishing touches, and bake it one final time. And once it's baked and completely cooled down, it's looking pretty good, no scorching or anything. Baked just fine. Now we're going to go ahead and mix our ground color. I'm using brown, fresh fern, and pure black. And all of the paints that I use in this video are Folk Art brand matte acrylics. Once our base coat is on the ground, we are ready to start dry brushing. Once that base coat is completely dry, of course. And I'm just sort of wisping my brush on the surface with some lighter green. Now to add some more dimension and create some eerie shadows, we're going to go in with some red violet. I am dry brushing this into the recessed areas of the ground. Now for some extra highlights and a little touch of fall, we're going to go in and dry brush some glazed carrots. Now onto the tombstones. I'm going in with some dark gray that I created by mixing warm white and pure black. I'm going to go ahead and put that first coat on both tombstones. And once that's dry, we're going to go in with some darker gray into all of the crevices to create some shadows. Now once the shadows are on, we're going to go ahead and work our way lighter with a focus on the top of the tombstones, like so, and just sort of bring out those details. There we go. Check out those tombstones. Time to paint the pumpkins. We're going in with some glazed carrots for these guys. After what felt like a million coats of glazed carrots, we're going to go in and paint the stems with some brown. Now using some watered down dark brown, I want to bring out all of the details of the pumpkins, like the mouth area. Just going to brush that inside there and then wipe up the excess with my thumb. Now onto the skulls. I created this color by mixing warm white, pure black, and a little bit of brown. Now I lightened up my gray a little bit, and I'm just sort of dabbing it on the surface to create some more dimension. After the extra details on the pumpkins, we're going to go ahead and paint our fence this nice dull brown color. I mixed warm white, brown, and pure black to create this. Now we're going to go ahead and paint all the rocks dark gray and then highlight them with some lighter gray. Now we just have to paint the inside of the skull's eyes. I'm just rotating my brush inside like that, and then any excess I paint over. And for a final touch, I'm going to dry brush some lighter brown on that fence to bring out those details. And it's done! Our little Halloween scene is complete. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you use any of these tutorials in your own projects, be sure to share them to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and tag me at AceOfClay or hashtag AceOfClay so I can check them out. And that's a wrap. I really hope you like how my little Halloween environment thing came out. I absolutely love it. Not gonna lie, it was a really nice break from making figurines and humanoid creatures. I really enjoyed making this and just being able to add different things to it as I saw fit. I didn't really have a plan when I started. I just knew that I wanted to show you all of these different little mini tutorials, and I really hope you enjoyed the video. So if you did, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching and being here. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and then follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at AceOfClay. Join my Facebook group, Snakes of Clay. We're doing a cool Halloween challenge next month, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.